Imagine staring at a massive spreadsheet of raw data. I mean, it is just totally scattered. You've got these massive spikes, sudden drops, and absolutely no discernible pattern. It looks like total, utter chaos. But what if I told you there's an actual mathematical law that forces this exact chaos into perfect, predictable order? So think about that for a second. Why does messy, unpredictable data suddenly become perfectly predictable just because we take an average? It's one of those questions that completely baffles students when they first dive into statistics. You know, they look at the wild raw numbers and then they look at the beautifully smooth averages, and honestly, it feels like a magic trick. But I promise you, it's not magic. It's actually one of the most powerful rules in the universe.
By the end of this explainer, you are going to understand the core concept, the actual formula behind it, and exactly how to apply the central limit theorem to real-world examples. We're going to break down the theory step by step so you can see exactly how the mechanics work behind the scenes.
Section 1. The problem. 60 unpredictable cookie recipes.
All right, let's dive right in with a real-world problem from the Olmsted homestead. Look at the sheer variety we've got in front of us here. We're looking at the lifespans of 60 different cookie recipes. Basically, how many days a batch of cookies lasted before they, went bad or just got eaten. Look at the extremes. Recipe number 1 lasted barely a single day. But scan down to recipe 48, that one lasted an incredible 11 days. This data is literally all over the place.
Now, if we graph this original population data, every single one of those 60 recipes, it is completely chaotic. You get this massive spike at 1 day, a whole bunch at 5 days, and then this random outlier way out at 11 days. It definitely does not form a smooth shape, and it absolutely does not look like a neat, symmetrical bell curve. It's just a jagged, unpredictable mess. So how on earth do we make sense of this?
Section 2, Experiment 1, Sampling 5 at a time.
Okay, instead of looking at individual recipes, let's group them up. Here is our lab procedure. Step 1, we use a random number generator to basically blindfold ourselves and blindly pick 5 recipes from the pile. Step 2, we add up their lifespans and calculate the mean, the average, of just those 5. And step 3, we plot that single average number on a brand new graph. And then, we just repeat that process over and over again.
Quick question for you. What happens to the shape of our graph as we plot these averages instead of those wild individual recipes? Think about it for a second. Are we still going to have those massive spikes at 1 day and 11 days? Well, the answer is no. The wild swings actually start to disappear. When you take a sample size of 5, which in stats we call n equals 5, the new histogram begins to pull away from those extreme edges and starts clustering right toward the middle. Makes sense, right? Because to get an average of 11 days, you would have to randomly select 5 11-day recipes in a row, which is incredibly unlikely. So the highs naturally balance out the lows.
Section 3. Leveling up. Sample size of 10.
So now that we see how averages smooth things out, we're going to level up and repeat the exact same mathematical process. But this time, we are doubling our sample size. Instead of picking 5 random recipes, we're drawing samples of 10. N equals 10. We take 10 recipes, find the average, plot it. Take another 10, average, plot it. You get the idea.
Now you might be looking at this and asking, wait, I see the graph getting narrower, but why exactly does the standard deviation, the spread of our data, shrink when we sample 10 instead of 5? It's a fantastic question, and honestly, it's the core of why this theorem is so incredibly powerful.
And this visual brilliantly illustrates the answer. Look at the left side versus the right side. On the right, with n equals 10, the data is clustered much tighter around the center. Larger sample sizes absolutely crush those outliers. If it was unlikely to randomly pick 5 11-day recipes, imagine how mathematically nearly impossible it is to randomly pick 10 11-day recipes. The larger your sample, the more those extremes cancel each other out perfectly, which forces your sample mean much closer to the true theoretical mean of the whole population.
Section 4. The theory reveal. The Central Limit Theorem.
We've just watched chaos turn into a smooth curve with our cookies, and this brings us to the formal statistical theory, the Central Limit Theorem. The formal definition states that as sample size increases, the distribution of sample means approaches a normal distribution, that famous bell curve we all know, regardless of the population's original shape. That last part? That's absolutely key. The original cookies were a jagged mess, but their averages, a perfect bell curve.
Let's break down the actual symbols so you can read these formulas like a pro. First, as your sample size grows, your sample mean, represented by x bar, approaches the true theoretical mean of the whole population, which we call mu. Second, your standard deviation shrinks as n, your sample size, increases. And third, the final shape transforms into that smooth, beautiful bell curve.
Let's make this even easier with a real-life analogy. Imagine you have to guess the exact height of one single random person walking out of a grocery store. I mean, that is incredibly risky, right? They could be a 7-foot basketball player or a 4-foot child. But what if you had to guess the average height of the next 100 people walking out? That's way easier. You'd safely guess somewhere around 5 foot 6 inches. Because taking a large average always leads to a safer, more predictable middle ground. The extremes just get completely watered down.
Wait, this is important. Pause right here and lock this into your memory because this is literally the most common mistake students make on exams. The original data does not need to be normal. Your starting data can be skewed left, skewed right, completely random, or shaped like a literal smiley face. It does not matter. The Central Limit Theorem guarantees that as long as your sample size is large enough, the averages of those samples will always form a bell curve.
Section 5. Wrapping up. What we proved today.
Okay, before we finish up, let's quickly summarize the key points we've uncovered today. First, raw individual data is almost always messy and scattered. That's just the reality of the world we live in. Second, the simple act of taking averages from random samples creates a predictable, normal distribution basically out of thin air. And finally, the larger your sample size, the smaller your standard deviation becomes, meaning your predictions get more tightly clustered and highly accurate.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If the central limit theorem works so perfectly for predicting something as trivial as cookie lifespans, how can we use this exact same mathematical law to predict the outcome of massive national elections by only polling a tiny fraction of the country? Think about how sample sizes and averages basically run the modern world. It is truly incredible. We are going to tackle exactly how that election math works in our next explainer. Keep analyzing, and I'll see you then.